Yo guys, Jins here, and today I'm gonna make a tier list for the most fun Affliction iterations according to expansions. Now, fun is subjective. I know what's fun for me might not be fun for you, so keep that in mind. That is just my opinion. Also, there's no Shadowlands here, so I'm gonna make it as a last one. And before I start, fun for me it's pretty simple. It's in PvP, by the way. It's not all aspects of the game. This is concerning PvP. And for me, fun in PvP is having a engaging damage rotation, how the spec feels, not only how strong it is. If the spec is decent, I don't like to be overpowered, but I don't like to be underpowered, and the how I feel after the game, right? If I feel like I contributed anything to the win. So the first one, let's start. It's BFA and it's an easy D. BFA, in my opinion, had the worst class design in the game, in all of the expansions. Your dots did nothing. Deadbolt did nothing. Darkblade did nothing. You didn't have any tools. It was absolutely horrific expansion for Affliction. Um, there's nothing to say about BFA. It was just horrible. Now Cataclysm, for me, it's an easy A. It's just, in my opinion, Kara was pretty much Wrath of the Lich King, but with more quality of life changes like Fell Flame and like the shard system, but it wasn't the horrific shard system we have now that it was introduced in MOP. It was a good shard system which was only used for utility. So I loved Kara. I only played 3 months, I think. I stopped during Kara, but it had nothing to do with the expansion itself. I kinda sometimes regret stop playing here because Warlocks were insanely fun to play. You had a lot of tools, and even though I didn't like Soul Swap, it wasn't the aids that Soul Swap became in MOP, so it was a pretty good expansion. Now, Legion, I will put it up here. Legion, in my opinion, was the expansion that destroyed class design overall in terms of classes, in terms of all classes, in terms of all specs. Same with Affliction. I hated unstable Affliction stacking and all of that, but one thing that we need to consider is how it played in PvP. And here your dots did damage, you had some self-healing, you weren't tanky, nor you had like a slow or any other school of magic besides Shadow. But in terms of how it felt to deal damage, it felt way better than in BFA and than in Shadowlands because your dots did damage. You had some single targets, and yeah, it's not the best. It's certainly not the best, but it's not the worst compared to BFA. Now MOP, some people will hate me for this. It's a B. A MOP, in my opinion, was the start of the downfall for Warlocks for Affliction. It was when they added the shard system. When I came back from the stop, I came back actually in MOP, and I absolutely hated it, especially in PvP, because to be the most efficient, you had macros just to soul swap around. That's why I always say that snapshotting it's not skilled, nor it was skilled back in the day, because you just get all the dots during the biggest damage phases you have with trinkets and the cooldowns, and then you soul swap around, and I hate that. It removed a lot of skill. Besides the shard system for damage, it's just an horrific design. So yeah, I didn't like MOP at all. Um, yeah, just didn't like it. TBC. Now in TBC we need to consider one thing, which is we have two PvP specs, which is the SLSL. Even though you take more demo points, it is still considered an Affliction spec because you play like an Affliction Warlock. And you have the Unstable Affliction Warlock spec, which is not as tanky, but it's incredibly engaging to play. And I will put it as A tier, but behind Kara, because you still didn't have Haunt. And uh, Burning Crusade is coming out, and in my opinion, it's one of the most fun to play as Affliction, full Affliction, even though you don't have the survivability to play it in most comps. You can only really play it in Shadow Play. But the SLSL Warlock just feels like a Legion Warlock, but with better design. So with slows, with Soul Link, Fell Armor, and obviously emulate Searing Pain. So you don't have only one school like in Legion. That it's just a better version of Legion. It's what Legion should have been. It's exactly this one. It's Burning Crusade because it legit plays like Legion. The only difference is in Legion you had Unstable Affliction. Here, as SLSL, you didn't. But yeah, it was a really good expansion overall. My favorite expansion, but in terms of class design, it's not the best one. Even though SLSL is extremely strong, it's not very engaging in the way you deal damage, but you can still do plays with Devour, allowing you to devour the enemy or a friendly target, Fear, Emulate, Searing Pain, and obviously Totem Stomping with the macro. But yeah, in my opinion, Burning Crusade was a really good expansion for Warlocks, but it was not the most fun. Now, Classic, in my opinion, and this is hard because you don't really have PvP, but I'm gonna say the whole experience in Classic in terms of leveling, and it just plays better than this because again you have more schools of magic, you feel like an Affliction Warlock while playing. Um, Maybe actually not B, but C. Yeah, I think this is a better. It just lacked a few things in terms of no, no. It's B. Sorry, guys. It's really hard. It's still better than Legion for sure because you don't have to spam Unstable Affliction to do damage. And Drain Life, it's actually deals damage. You have Shadow Bolt that actually deals a lot of damage. It's better than Legion for sure. You just didn't have arenas to test it. But yeah, now WOD, in my opinion, it's B tier, but above this. The difference between WOD and MOP for me was the fact that you had to spend a shard on a Soulburn Haunt, which didn't allow you to soul swap as much, which makes it better than MOP in my opinion. The class overall uh, lost a lot here in WOD, and it wasn't very good into Turbo. It was actually horrific into Turbo and RMD even. But overall, it just felt better to play than MOP, even though it wasn't as strong as MOP. This was the expansion where Turbo Cleaves would just kill your pet with Ascendance and then turn to you, and you didn't really have a chance other than summon a Void Walker, and you couldn't spelllock the Druid, which meant that eventually you would lose to a Turbo. But even though Affliction wasn't as strong, in my opinion, was more fun than Mob, just because you had you couldn't soul swap as much. That's the only reason. Now, Wrath of the Lich King, it should even have an S++ tier here. It's not even close. In terms of fun, Wrath of the Lich King, in my opinion, is the best expansion of World of Warcraft in terms of class design, not overall. Overall, I would say TBC is, like with PvE, PvP. Overall, uh, but Wrath of the Lich King had the best PvP seasons, in my opinion, besides Season 5, obviously, if you don't count Season 5. But in terms of class design for Warlocks, was perfect. It was pretty much Burning Crusade, but with a Haunt, and yeah, it was just perfect. You still didn't had the Dark Soul like in Kata, so you weren't streamlining classes, so you felt a bit more special as a warlock, and it was just an amazing expansion. You had Shadow Flame. It was when they introduced Shadow Flame. You had Haunt. You had Unstable Affliction, and regardless of you liking the pre-season 6 or after season 6 design, so before season 6 you could have Emulate and Siphon Life. After season 6 you only had Agony, Corruption, and the Stable Affliction. But it was just a very well designed spec. In my opinion, was the best iteration of Warlock. It was when Drain Soul Execute was introduced. So you would Shadow Bolt in PvE into a Drain Soul by the end, and in PvP you would kinda do the same. You would just drain life to get Shadow Bolt procs, to then execute with Drain Soul if you could, and if there weren't any kicks. In my opinion, is better than Kata, just because in Kata they added Soul Swap, and in Kata they added Fell Flame, which was another thing to allow you to fuck up, kind of. And in Kata they added Dark Soul, which in my opinion is hurting Warlocks a lot, because the streamlining of the classes and making you only do damage in Dark Soul windows has been very bad for Warlocks. But Kata was a really good experience for Warlocks, like you see. And now Shadowlands. Shadowlands, in my opinion, it's D, but it's a D before. It's better than BFA, but it's worse than Legion. And by the way, guys, in my opinion, the Shadowlands design is better than Legion. The problem is with the tuning, and by that I don't mean that we are not well tuned in terms of damage. It's just the way you deal damage. It should be with dots, and if it was with dots, I think Shadowlands would be around B tier. If dots, Shadow Bolt, and Shadow Bolt did damage, and Drain Life actually did some damage as well without inevitable demise, I think it could reach a B status, because it's way better designed than Legion and BFA and Classic. The only problem with Shadowlands is just how you deal damage, and since you don't have that single target punch with the Shadow Bolt and Drain Life, and your dots kind of rotting, it feels like you shouldn't even go for fears, because you're not gonna kill one target, you're gonna kill two, and then when the healer gets out of the fear, you will top both of them. But yeah, guys, that's my tier list. I think if you follow the channel and or you follow me on forums, you already knew this was coming. For me, Wrath of the Lich King, it's what Blizzard should aspire. And the funny part is, Shadowlands, it's actually really close in terms of class design. All they need to do is just a bit of tuning on how we deal damage. And Shadowlands, it's gonna reach like B or even maybe A tier. They just need to make it just need to make dots and shadow bolts and drain life do damage, and I think we could have a really good expansion in Shadowlands in terms of warlock PvP design and fun. But yeah, guys, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, keep keep up. TBC's coming, changes are coming, and in Wednesday I'm still not gonna play that much, because for me it's not about being OP or strong, it's about having fun while being in a game. And for me, Malefic Rapture, it's the most boring spell they could have added, and that's why it's below Legion, even though Legion was horrific in terms of class design. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Peace.